Children of God, greetings from Vietnam, and welcome to this sacred space where we are gathered tonight. Welcome to the Webisode 2 of our web series, I Am Still Human, inspired by the latest encyclical of Pope Leo XIV, the Magnifica Humanitas. Tonight, we dive into the theme that strikes at the very heart of modern life, the dignity of my sweat. As technology, automation, and evidence driven digital systems rapidly evolve, we find ourselves at a critical crossroad. We ask ourselves, how do we keep the human soul at the center of institutional leadership? Who truly owns our dignity when human effort risks being treated like a mindless algorithmic transaction? To make this a truly collaborative experience, we want to hear from you. On your screen right now, you will see our Padlet QR code. Please take out your smartphones, scan the QR code, and join our interactive wall. You can share your personal reflections, post your comments, and submit questions for our panel at any point during tonight's broadcast. To ground our discussion, let's begin by looking at this video.
Consider the professional landscape today: a graphic designer adjusting layouts, an office administrator managing records, a field worker sorting a harvest. In each of these roles, the software used to assist the work is increasingly taking over the actual doing. This shift follows a specific logic that the most efficient path is the one with the least possible human interference. In this system, our natural speed, our need for rest, and our occasional errors are categorized as friction, costs that must be minimized. This prioritizes the result over the process. As algorithms execute the specialized tasks humans once crafted with care, the worker's role shifts. They are moved from the center of the creative act to the periphery, acting as supervisors for a process they no longer control. Within this framework, the human person is redefined. Instead of being the driver of creation, the worker is viewed as a data input, a variable to be optimized or replaced by a more predictable line of code. During the first industrial revolution, the danger was physical. These workers were often dwarfed by the machinery they operated, treated by the factory system as interchangeable parts in a massive engine. In 1891, Pope Leo XIII responded to this industrial pressure in his encyclical Rerum Novarum. He defined physical labor as a personal right tied to human dignity, rather than a commodity to be traded at the lowest possible price. Today, that struggle has moved from the physical to the digital. Pope Leo XIV, in Magnifica Humanitas, addresses a new threat: the attempt to reduce the human mind and agency to a set of outputs for a digital platform. This is visible in modern digital supply chains. In rooms across Asia, thousands of data labelers and click farm workers spend hours training AI models for global tech firms, performing repetitive tasks for wages that barely sustain them. Control in these systems is often invisible. Apps used for border surveillance and platform-mandated quotas track the movement of migrant workers, turning their physical presence into a stream of data used to enforce compliance. The 19th century factory has been reimagined as software. The same drive to extract maximum value from the worker now lives in the code, monitoring effort across borders and bypassing traditional protections. This pressure to measure everything extends into the nonprofit sector. Local development groups and NGOs now find themselves forced to prove their value through the constant quantification of human relationships. The encyclical describes this as the Babel system. A vibrant, multifaceted community is crushed and flattened into a single bar on a dashboard, satisfying a donor's need for simple metrics. Field workers are caught in the middle. Instead of building trust, they spend their energy chasing the metric that keeps funding active. This creates a profound disconnect. When a worker's empathy and physical presence are logged by an AI model as inefficiencies or delays, the worker begins to feel like a ghost in their own profession, a person whose primary value has been deemed obsolete. Effective community work is inherently messy and slow. It requires a physical presence and a level of patience that cannot be accelerated by an algorithm or captured on a spreadsheet. There is a theological response to this digital flattening. Our effort is not a flaw to be optimized away. It is a sacred expression of our nature. The act of labor, whether it's building a house or organizing a community, is the primary way we participate in the ongoing work of creation. It is through this effort that we exercise our agency. A machine can simulate an output, but it cannot experience the exertion. There is a distinction between a result generated by code and one born from human effort, a difference that lives in the spiritual weight of honest sweat. Reclaiming the dignity of work starts with a refusal. We must reject the idea that our lives and our labor are merely free training data for global platforms that seek to replace us. We are left with a choice. We can accept a world of frictionless, automated optimization, or we can choose to protect the sacred physical reality of our work.
Yes, welcome back. To help us unpack these realities and explore how we can fight back against automated exploitation, I am incredibly honored to welcome two frontline leaders. First, we have Adrian Pereira. Adrian is the co-founder and executive director of the North-South Initiative in Malaysia. He brings over a decade of fierce, boots on the ground human rights advocacy, protecting marginalized communities and exposing forced labor dynamics within ASEAN global supply chains. Also joining him is Felix Tonog. Felix is the executive director of the Philippine Council for NGO Certification, or PCNC. With 3 decades of cross-sectoral leadership, Felix specializes in building operational transparency, ethical governance, and resilient institutions that keep the human soul at the center of organizational strategy. Welcome, Adrian and Felix. But before we jump into our conversation, here is a quick reminder for our viewers. Please scan the Padlet QR code flashing on your screen right now to join our live wall and pitch your thoughts to our panel as we begin. Yes, let's begin from experience. No? Adrian and Felix, I would like to ask, in your many years of working experience, what is the most difficult work that you have done or most challenging? And looking back, how did you feel about it? Can we start with Adrian?
Yeah, firstly, I'd like to share how grateful I am to not just the organizers, but the leadership of Vatican, who has been consistent when it comes to putting the dignity of the worker at the center in the world of work. The world of work is brutal. It can be very cruel at most times, with the capitalist system keeping extracting as much as it can. And I remember many years ago when they told us how the technologists told us that GMO is going to solve world hunger. I was always skeptical, and I can see the same trend now repeating in the advent of AI. And with that mentioned, I'm really grateful that Vatican has remained consistent. I worked with the UN systems, the ILO systems, but these are superstructures led by the state and sometimes employers and workers, but the human touch is always missing. And I think one of the most difficult things in my work is to ensure that the workers community doesn't become individualistic as how AI is trying to drive it. Each worker has now become a data point, and it has put into a black box that is really things that we can't see and interpret yet. So it's only through collective effort that is extremely difficult to build, whether it's through unionism or through collective bargaining, that we can break through this black box of algorithms. Yeah.
Yes, Felix.
Yes, Father Phil, thank you for having me. Well, I think in the past about 3 decades of working with different nonprofit organizations, the central question, I guess, remains to be how we look at organizations. No? Our organizations, for us, our organizations uh, problems to be resolved, or our organizations are like organisms that have to be nurtured. And you always see that a constant dynamic, working with different organizations, being composed of different individuals. So at some point, you see problematic organizations, but on the other hand, you also see that having this friction, so to speak, within an organization makes organization unique, makes organization dynamic, and it's a proof that the organization is alive. See, uh, you cannot see an organization that very smooth sailing, right? It's very seldom. I think you really cannot find an organization like that. So that kind of dynamics makes working with different organizations, whether people's organizations or institutions, challenging at the same time a
There's something I cannot hear you, Felix. Ah,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
I think I lost the connection. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Please continue.
yes, I think that's what I'm saying is that working with different organizations, with all the conflicts and the imperfections that it might have, makes working with organizations quite both a challenging work and a fulfilling work as well. Yeah.
Okay. I would like to know, was there a time in your work where you put so much effort but don't feel compensated, or you felt undervalued despite putting your heart, your soul, your sweat, blood? And how does the compensation, financial or otherwise, we receive from our sweat affect also our sense of dignity?
Yeah, I think for most of development workers, I'm not sure in other countries, but also but particularly in the Philippines, it's always that feeling that development workers are not well compensated, or development workers are not compensated enough, no, compared to the amount of work that they are doing. I don't know with Adrian if that is the same, but there's that general perception, no, even among development workers, that if you are working in an NGO or in a foundation, don't expect competitive salary. I'm not even talking of high salaries, but even at least competitive to
Mm-mm.
our counterparts in the private sector. But I guess that's really of part of the trade, no? In the same way that priests are called to that vocation. So we always view working in an NGO sector is also some sort of a vocation that most of development workers would stay for the longest time, not because of compensation, although of course we need that, but because of their sense of mission. And I guess the biggest um, compensation probably is really if you realize that the work that you have done have made positive impact on the lives of the organizations that you work with, or on the lives of the beneficiaries that those organizations were able to help. Yeah.
Okay, how about Adrian?
Yeah. So in the developed worker sector, you see a lot of the problems that we actually are working on, primarily duty is actually the state. And if you look at Riverum Novarum, it actually reminds the state and the governments that it has a duty, not just as a referee, but to solve some of these problems. So whenever that is not happening, the development worker steps in, the NGO worker steps in. So looking back at the type of problems me and my team solve, from forced labor to human trafficking, I mean, I don't want to fall into the trap of putting a figure, a superficial value in monetary value, but the putting the dignity back at our work and helping the workforce work with dignity is, I think, something that it's beyond work. It's a mission. But back to my point that wherever governments fail, or wherever the businesses and capitalists fail, we step in. And the strange part is, a lot of the businesses expect us to solve their problems for free. This is a very dangerous trend that is happening now, including solving the AI problems, including solving workers' problems who are now in the digital platform, the gig economy. My goodness, the amount of problems that we are just discovering at this, from the industrial 4.0 revolution till now, is just shocking. One would assume that, with all the technology, it should have predicted all of this, but it hasn't. It's only now that the problems are coming to the surface. And, examples like something as simple as heat stress. Malaysia is one of the highest developing country in ASEAN. Till today has not updated its heat stress advisories for, the gig workers, the delivery riders. And for me, that's very disturbing, because on one hand, you claim that, technology is the way forward, but the basic fundamentals, you have not addressed. So that contradiction is something that, we will really need to address. And, back to the first question on what is difficult is ensuring that workers are united and don't fall into the trap of individualism. And I'm very proud that, the Vatican leadership continues to remind us about that.
Yeah.
How should development workers view artificial intelligence, and in relation also to its service to the community? Adrian.
Yeah. So I think workers are already on the defense. We know that we have seen the impact of people losing jobs. In fact, I got into trouble with my own team one day. So my colleague, who's the digital artist, she was not well for a few months. And I asked the intern to do a graphics. And of course, the intern decided to use AI. And I got into big trouble. The community of artists questioned me. My own team questioned me and said, Adrian, what have you done? So it really struck me that there is an impact on people, not just the dignity of work, but the direction of organizations. And I'm very proud to say that, for whatever work we do, we say, hey, let's do the thinking on our own. Let's do the hard work first. And where we need an assistance, only if needed, then we look at AI. But at the same time, we do know that, a lot of this technology is forced in our faces, and it will take time for workers to grasp what is going on. And I gave the example of gig or the platform workers, where the black box is still unknown. How the algorithm is manipulating and really designing and planning our whole lives, despite workers thinking that they have more freedom. It's actually quite the contrary.
Yeah.
Yes, Felix. How should
Yeah.
development workers view AI?
I think this is still a developing thing for mostly for Philippine NGOs. What we are seeing is that although there is a growing awareness of AI nowadays, but I think it's still very, shall we say, in the infancy stage, and most NGOs are still trying to figure out how to really determine how this AI will impact their work as an organization, as an institution, because definitely some individuals, especially the younger ones, no, the younger development workers who have been quite familiar, the Gen X who are very familiar, tech savvy. On the individual level, the adoption might be quite faster. But when you talk of the institutional level, meaning if you look at NGOs as an organization and how the organization adopts to this AI is something different. It's quite slower. For us in PCNC, what we are trying to do now is we are partnering with another tech NGO, Tech Soup, and we are running a series of webinars and trying to understand how AI actually impacts the different layers of development work. But one thing that we are trying to really understand and put in the webinar, the central question is, how can we possibly or ensure that we use AI responsibly and ethically in our work? Yes, there is some openness to accepting, embracing AI and the different AI tools. I think in the so many applications, there's no way of really escaping the effects or the impact of AI in our different works, no? Whether editing a picture or coming up with a write-up or helping us analyze data, etc., etc. So there can be positive impact in the way in terms of improving efficiencies. But the central question that we are driving out is, how can we make sure that we use AI responsibly and ethically, and what is the corresponding governance framework that the organization must adopt when they use or embrace AI to help or expand or improve the work that they are doing. I think that is still an evolving story, so to speak. Yes, Father.
Okay. So with digital communication, no, like group chats being available 24/7, I would like to know, because with this GCs, which means it does not follow office hours, how do you also protect your family time?
For me, I don't
Yeah.
impose upon my staff. I respect still the working hours time frame. It might be different for Adrian, who are working in some extreme cases when you are trying to work with trafficking. I understand there's no really time, right? Even holidays or weekends or even at the middle of the night, you can be working. But as much as possible, we try to respect and provide some, we respect working times and allow our staff to really enjoy the time off with their families and friends. Yeah.
Yes, Adrian.
Yeah, I mean, that's a brilliant question because, I mean, we have used technology to bring workers together.
Yes.
Migrant workers who, come to Malaysia, and, the cultural communications competency there, when you interact with the local trade unions, with the local workers, your own boss, even a simple thing like a pain in the tooth can become so complicated to explain to a doctor. And that's where, wherever technology can help us, we are open.
Sure.
The problem is when the capitalists use it to manipulate and control workers in a way that is so mind-boggling. You can't imagine how the algorithms decide your destination to deliver something and your next trip and how they even punish you. It's so shocking. Me and my friends were just mapping the whole reverse mapping the algorithm, and there is a certain degree of exploitation and dishonesty. But whatever tools are available, let's use it. To bring workers together, to unite workers, and things like translations. Right, we have used that. Uh, all of my social media is activated. 6, 7 of them. Not to doom scroll. I do admit sometimes I fall into that trap. But workers reach out to us. Their families reach out to us. We are now using TikTok to listen to the plight of workers after their working hours. So at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, the security guards come together. They share their stories, things that couldn't be possible because many workers are in gated and guarded hostels. There's no way of reaching out to them. So let's embrace the technology. And I don't think Pope Leo, in all his wisdom, is saying reject technology. I can see there's a certain dishonesty in some commentaries who are saying that, oh, let's reject AI. I think that's very mischievous, but let's use it responsibly and hold everyone accountable. That's what I think the spirituality of Catholics social action calls us to embrace.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. What is your message to people who are still hesitant to embrace technology?
You see, I over the last few years, I had the pleasure and blessings to take care of my elderly parents and migrants, refugees who are broken, not just physically broken. My mom broke her leg a few months ago, but the refugees and the migrants whose spirits are broken. And there were times we thought that, okay, you see, even the translations are wrong. Even the translations with layers of language difference and cultural explanations, to embrace that migrant in that brokenness or the refugee in that brokenness, you need the human touch. You must be physically present there. Of course, when that is not possible, we use technology, but in our urgent action response, we really need to be there. But the technology acts as the supporting tool behind that action. So I think the wisdom and the discernment as Catholics and as per Vatican leadership is to discern when is the right time to use and when is the right time to be careful.
Yes, discernment. I got the word discernment. How about you, Felix?
I still believe, Father, that we still need to view technology as the fruit of human endeavor, because all of this AI and technology, these are all products of the greatness of the human mind and human work and human labor. And this is not a product of a single individual or corporation, and this is a collective product. And therefore, I still believe that it has to be celebrated. And but of course, even those who pioneered in the development of this AI were saying that uh, a knife in your hand can be used for good purpose or for bad purpose. Right? And so we are always drawn back into the question of what are we going to do with the tools that are at our disposal. We always have a choice. Use it for good, use it for something that is sinister. And that's always, we always need to be reminded that our calling is to use whatever technology we have for the greater good. And that's always the challenge, because there are other people who might also think that they can use whatever technology or anything at their disposal to take advantage of the weak or of the poor. So it's a constant struggle reminder, and I think a constant calling for not only for development workers but for everyone, that we have the free will as Adrian was saying, and we always need to discern using that free will to make use of the technology at our hand to promote our purpose and achieve our mission. So yeah.
Okay, great. I still have so many questions.
Maybe a simple intervention. I mean, let's look back at history and learn from some
But
of
as we
the
bring
painful
tonight's broadcast
lessons.
to a close, because we are only 30
Um,
minutes.
yeah, if just a
Yes,
strict
yes.
intervention. So if you look at some of the historical events like the atomic bomb, right? And
Yeah.
now they're talking about data centers. And a few days ago, the first trillionaire was born, right? In the promise of of technological advancement. But the reality is the equity is not there. I agree with you, Felix, that technology is the product of workers. I myself am a computer engineer by training, but using my Pax Romana experience and analysis, the equity is still not there.
Yeah.
Billions and billions of workers, IT workers, knowledge, dignity. Sorry, not dignity, the value of their work. It goes to the few 1%.
Yeah.
And how do we challenge that, equitable and distribution? And in the age of startups, oh my God, startups, fintech. I was at a conference in Singapore with all the global banks, federal banks, bankers were there. And they're not thinking about the dignity of workers. They're not thinking about the dignity of the programmers. It's an afterthought. And I think forums like this remind the world, using the wisdom of Magnifica Humanitas and Reverum Novarum, reminds us that go back to the dignity of the workers.
Yeah. Agree.
Yes, so I have so many questions still, no, but because we are only given 30 minutes, no, as we bring tonight's broadcast to close, we want to remind everyone that our Padlet wall will remain open for your continuing insights, reflections, and questions. My take tonight really zooms on the dignity of human labor. No? It means we have the moral right to meaningful, to safe and justly compensated employment that also allows us to participate in society and fulfill our God-given potentials. All the more also that I am convinced that technology must serve humanity and not the other way around. So thank you, Magnifica Humanitas. Thank you also to our guests tonight, Adrian and Felix. This web series is proudly organized by SIGNIS Philippines in partnership with TV Maria, Radio Veritas Asia, and Episcopal Commission on Social Communication. We also extend our heartfelt thanks to SIGNIS Malaysia for their invaluable collaboration. Thank you all for being with us, and remember, your sweat, your labor, and your dignity matter. Good night. The Lord be with you, and may the Almighty God bless you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you very much, and good night. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you.